And you know why, John? There were some wonderful things that happened in my life, but you were one of the wonderful things that happened in my life. When I was nobody,
Long
you reached
before
out to
she became one of the brightest stars in Las Vegas, Lola Falana's life began in a very different world. She was born on September 11, 1942, in Camden, New Jersey. Her real name was Lolita Elaine Falana. Life in her childhood home was not easy. She was the third of 6 children, and the family lived in a small house where space and money were always limited. Her father, Bennett Falana, worked very hard as a welder after serving in the U.S. Marines. Her mother, Cleo Falana, worked as a seamstress, sewing clothes for very little pay just to help support the family. Even though both parents worked hard, money was still tight. Many nights the family had simple meals like beans and rice because it was all they could afford. Despite the struggles around her, Lola had something inside her that made her different. From a very young age, she loved music and dancing. When she was only 3 years old, she would sneak into church choir rehearsals and watch the singers closely. Sometimes she would even try to sing along, copying the voices she admired. One of the singers who inspired her was the famous jazz and blues singer Dinah Washington. Lola would mix the style of blues singing with gospel music, which surprised many people in the church. Some choir members were shocked by her bold voice and strong personality. But instead of feeling embarrassed or scared, Lola felt excited. Music felt like a natural part of her life, almost like breathing. Her parents hoped she would choose a more stable path, encouraging her to study piano and violin instead of dancing. They believed discipline and structure could lead her to a safer future. However, Lola's love for dancing was impossible to control. Even as a child, she felt that performing was her true calling. Whenever the house became quiet at night, she would practice dance steps alone, imagining she was already standing under bright stage lights in front of a cheering audience. By the time Lola was 5 years old, her love for performing had already started to shape her life. She often danced on the sidewalks of Camden, tapping her worn shoes against the pavement while people walked by. Factory workers, neighborhood kids, and even strangers sometimes stopped to watch her perform. Many of them dropped small coins into her hands as a reward for her energy and talent. One afternoon, Lola managed to collect around $150 from people who enjoyed her performance. For a little girl growing up in poverty, that amount of money felt like a huge fortune. It made her believe that her talent could truly change her future. However, not everyone supported her dream. Her father believed that the entertainment world was dangerous and sinful. He called show business devil work and worried that it would lead his daughter down the wrong path. Because of this, Lola had to hide many of her dreams from him. Sometimes she hid the money she earned under floorboards in the house or inside socks so that no one would find it. She learned very early that chasing a dream sometimes meant keeping it secret, even from the people who loved her most. One day, her father discovered that she was still dancing and trying to perform. He became angry and punished her harshly, even burning one of her practice skirts to stop her from dancing again. For many children, this moment might have ended their dream. But Lola's determination was stronger than fear. That same night, she gathered small pieces of fabric and made another skirt by hand. In that moment, she silently promised herself that no one would erase her passion for performing. Soon after, the family moved to Philadelphia. The streets there were rougher and the competition was stronger, but Lola's drive only grew. She continued practicing every chance she got, determined to prove that her dream was worth fighting for. As Lola grew older, her talent became impossible to ignore. By the time she was only 12 years old, she was already teaching dance classes at a local studio. It was unusual for someone so young to teach others, but Lola had a natural understanding of rhythm and movement that impressed many people. She taught jazz, ballet, and tap dance, often acting far more mature than her age. During the summer months, she also worked in Atlantic City cutting hair to earn extra money. Every dollar she earned was carefully saved. Instead of spending it on toys or clothes like many teenagers, Lola used the money to buy fabric, sequins, and costumes that could make her look like a professional performer. Her parents still hoped she would choose a safer path, finish school, and build a quiet life. But Lola wanted something much bigger. She wanted bright lights, loud music, and the excitement of a stage where she could express herself freely. As a teenager, she began performing in small clubs where the atmosphere was very different from church choirs or dance studios. These clubs were often filled with smoke, loud conversations, and crowds that could be difficult to impress. Lola sometimes earned only about $10 a night, but she treated every performance like it was the most important show of her life. Her mother occasionally accompanied her to these clubs to make sure she stayed safe. Despite the challenges, Lola thrived in these environments because they allowed her to develop her unique style. At the age of 16, she made one of the most difficult decisions of her young life. She left school behind to fully chase her dream of performing. Her parents were upset and worried about her future, but Lola believed that the stage was where she truly belonged. Soon afterward, she received an opportunity that felt almost like fate. She was invited to open for the very singer who had inspired her as a child, Dinah Washington. At 18 years old, Lola decided to take an even bigger risk. She left home and traveled to New York City with only $26 in her pocket. She carried little more than her talent, her determination, and a powerful belief that she could succeed. However, New York did not welcome her with easy opportunities. Instead, it tested her strength in ways she had never experienced before. Without a steady job or a place to live, Lola often spent nights riding subway trains just to stay warm and safe. When the trains stopped running, she sometimes slept on hard benches, listening to the noise of the city around her. In the mornings, she washed her face and arms in public restrooms, trying to look presentable before walking into auditions. She wanted casting directors to believe she was confident and professional, even when she was exhausted and hungry. Some days she survived on cheap food from diners or small scraps that barely filled her stomach. The loneliness and uncertainty of those days could have easily broken her spirit. There were moments when danger came very close. Police officers sometimes removed people they believed were homeless or wandering without purpose. One night, Lola was pulled off a train and taken to a police station because officers thought she was a vagrant. She was frightened that she might be forced to leave the city before her dream even had a chance to begin. Fortunately, a friend helped gather enough money to secure her release. Instead of giving up, Lola took this experience as a warning that she needed to work even harder. She attended audition after audition, sometimes facing rejection many times in a single day. Yet every time she was turned away, she returned again with the same determination. After months of struggling in New York, Lola finally experienced the kind of moment every performer dreams about. In 1964, while dancing in a nightclub chorus line in Atlantic City, her life changed in an instant. Among the people watching the show that night was the famous entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. Davis was already one of the biggest stars in entertainment, known for his singing, dancing, acting, and incredible stage presence. When he saw Lola perform, he immediately noticed something special about her. She had a bold energy and a natural confidence that made her stand out from the rest of the dancers. Instead of simply applauding and leaving, Davis asked to meet her. He challenged her with a quick freestyle performance to see what she could really do. Lola accepted the challenge and danced with all the passion and creativity she had inside her. Her performance impressed him so much that he decided to help her take the next step in her career. Soon afterward, Lola beat out hundreds of other dancers and earned a role in Davis's Broadway musical, Golden Boy. This was a major opportunity for someone who had recently been sleeping on subway trains. However, rehearsals for the show were not always smooth. Lola had strong opinions about how she wanted to perform, and she did not always agree with the strict choreography of Broadway productions. At times she argued with directors and even walked out of rehearsals. But she always returned with new ideas, mixing African rhythms with jazz and street dance styles that reflected her background. Instead of simply following instructions, she created a style that felt unique and powerful. When opening night finally arrived, Lola was extremely nervous. The pressure of performing on Broadway felt overwhelming. Yet when the curtain rose and she stepped onto the stage, her fear disappeared. The audience responded with loud applause and excitement. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She was no longer just a struggling dancer. She had become a rising star in the world of entertainment. As Lola Falana's reputation continued to grow, opportunities began to appear outside the United States. In 1965, she traveled to Europe, where audiences quickly fell in love with her bold and exciting performances. Italy became one of the first countries where she experienced true international fame. Her confidence, beauty, and powerful stage presence captured attention everywhere she performed. She appeared in films and performed in theater shows that introduced her to a new audience. European stages allowed her to experiment with performances that were more daring and creative than many American shows of the time. While working in Italy, Lola learned a dramatic fire routine from street performers in Rome. She added this dangerous act to her performances, turning it into a thrilling moment that audiences never forgot. One evening, the flame came dangerously close and burned part of her costume. Instead of panicking, Lola laughed and continued performing as if nothing had happened. The audience admired her courage and confidence even more. Soon fans across Europe began calling her the Black Venus, a nickname that reflected her beauty and powerful stage presence. Her success spread to France, where she performed in famous venues such as Olympia Theatre. Paris audiences were known for being demanding and difficult to impress, but Lola's performances captured their attention. Her shows often mixed dance, humor, and a teasing style that pushed the limits of what audiences expected. Newspapers wrote about her bold performances, sometimes praising her talent and sometimes criticizing her daring style. But whether people loved or argued about her shows, they always talked about her. The attention only increased her popularity. She later performed in the United Kingdom as well, where she refused to accept smaller roles. If producers tried to place her as a supporting act, she confidently pushed for the spotlight. Again and again, audiences responded with loud applause. Through these international tours, Lola proved that her talent could shine anywhere in the world. By the late 1960s, Lola Falana had become one of the most exciting performers in the entertainment world. When she arrived in Las Vegas, the city was already famous for glamorous shows and legendary performers. Yet Lola quickly proved she could stand out even among the brightest stars. In 1967, she stepped onto the stage at the famous Sands Hotel and Casino and delivered performances that audiences could not stop talking about. Night after night, the showroom filled with hundreds of people eager to see her perform. Under the bright lights, Lola danced in sparkling costumes and powerful high heels, moving with energy and confidence. Her voice could shift from a soft whisper to a strong, emotional cry that filled the entire theater. One of the most talked about parts of her show was her performance with singer Wayne Newton. Newton was already known as one of the biggest entertainers in Las Vegas, and their performances together created an exciting chemistry on stage. During their duets, they moved close to each other, teasing the audience with playful glances and dramatic moments. Sometimes their act ended with a kiss that made the audience cheer wildly. Rumors quickly spread in newspapers and gossip columns about whether their relationship was romantic or simply part of the show. Regardless of the truth, the excitement helped sell tickets. As the years passed, Lola's fame in Las Vegas continued to grow. By 1970, she was no longer just another performer. She had become one of the main attractions bringing visitors to the city. The famous Riviera Hotel and Casino signed her to a contract worth $50,000 a week, an enormous amount at the time. But Lola did not rely only on glamour and music. She constantly looked for ways to surprise the audience. One of her most daring ideas was performing with a live python draped over her shoulders during a dance number. By the mid-1970s, Lola Falana had reached the peak of her career. She was earning enormous amounts of money and performing to sold-out audiences night after night. At the famous MGM Grand Hotel and Casino, her shows sold out for 20 straight weeks. Some reports claimed she was earning as much as $100,000 a week, making her one of the highest-paid entertainers in Las Vegas. Her shows were full of dramatic moments, including elaborate costumes, energetic dance routines, and even performances with live snakes that shocked and thrilled audiences. But in 1976, one television appearance would unexpectedly change part of her career. Lola appeared on the popular late-night program hosted by Johnny Carson, the legendary The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. At the time, appearing on this show was one of the best ways for entertainers to promote their work and reach millions of viewers. During the interview, the conversation seemed friendly and relaxed. Lola spoke about her performances in Las Vegas and her partnership with Wayne Newton. Then she made a bold joke about Newton's manhood, delivering the comment with the playful humor she often used on stage. The audience laughed, and Carson himself smiled during the moment. However, behind the scenes something appeared to change. Some people later claimed that Carson was not pleased with the remark, especially because he had already been involved in tensions with Wayne Newton. Reports suggested that Newton had previously confronted Carson about jokes the host made about him. Because Lola was closely connected to Newton, her joke may have seemed like she was taking his side publicly. After that appearance, invitations for Lola to return to the show reportedly stopped. Years later, a newspaper interview with her manager suggested that Carson's team had decided not to invite her back. Whether it was truly because of that one comment or part of a larger conflict, the moment became a famous story in Hollywood gossip. Even though the story about her appearance on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson became a famous piece of Hollywood gossip, it did not destroy Lola Falana's career. She continued performing in Las Vegas and around the world, and her reputation as a powerful entertainer remained strong. However, life soon brought her a challenge far greater than television politics. In 1987, after years of raising money to help people with a serious illness, Lola received heartbreaking news. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the very disease she had spent years helping others fight. Multiple sclerosis affects the nervous system and can cause weakness, blurred vision, and problems with movement. For a performer whose life depended on dancing, movement, and physical strength, the diagnosis felt devastating. At the height of her career, Lola had once worn gowns weighing nearly 40 pounds and performed energetic dance routines in high heels. Now she struggled with simple movements and often felt exhausted. Many people believed her performing days were over. But Lola Falana had spent her entire life refusing to give up when life became difficult. Instead of allowing the disease to end her story, she focused on faith, recovery, and helping others who faced the same illness. During this time, she stepped away from the spotlight and devoted herself to spiritual growth and charitable work. Slowly, through treatment, determination, and prayer, her strength began to return. In 1989, she surprised many fans by returning to the stage for special performances in Las Vegas. The shows were different from her earlier years. The costumes were simpler and the dance routines less intense, but the spirit that made Lola famous was still there. Audiences welcomed her back with warmth and respect, recognizing the courage it took to stand on stage again after such a difficult battle. Over time, Lola Falana became known not only for her glamorous performances